for theory's sake, I'm not going to give an idea yet, but I'm just thinking of like the key points to me in the case are the location of the older gentleman. So they obviously knew their limits to the point where they're like, hey, you're going to all walk. Probably, I mean, they're within earshot, maybe not for Tom with the hearing issue, but they have walkie-talkies. They're only 40 yards off the road. They could probably see the road from where they're sitting, and they're just going to stay in one spot. And the whole idea is these guys can't walk a lot. Let's have them sit down. They do this, they do a deer push, and Tom's just gone. So the one thing, he was the farthest from the lake. If we're saying the lake is the starting point of this operation, it's where they parked.
Yep.
So
and he had no guys behind, past him. So he was the last of the watchers too.
And there were four watchers.
4 watchers, and then 3 guys driving the deer.
So he's about 400 yards from the parking spot. So he would have to walk down the road, which again, it's a road. So it's not walking through woods or anything. It's not too bad of a walk. And then only 40 yards in. Did they mention at all if they like had radio communication when they're all in their spots? Like they know he got to a spot?
They, I didn't see anything that said they had confirmation that he had gotten to a spot, but obviously being the last guy in the line, so the third guy, walks in and sits. Now Tom has to walk farther down the road and then in. So theoretically, we don't technically know that he got to his spot and sat down.
Okay. And that's kind of where you think they would have mentioned it, and this is where I really wish someone would have said something. I would assume when everyone got to their spot, they'd radio like, hey, I'm here. Because otherwise I feel like someone would have mentioned like, oh, we're not sure if he got there, because they seem pretty confident they knew exactly where he was sitting.
Yeah. So, and they didn't mention that they communicated with each other once they got to their spot. They very well could have said, it's Tom, I'm at my spot. We just don't know if they did that or
I've
not.
just been on radio communications with people while hunting and stuff, and you just say stupid stuff. Like, you just talk sometimes, like, hey, I'm here, like, just saying,
Yeah.
just speaking back and forth just for fun kind of deal. Like, they're having a good time. They're out for a hunt. So I can't imagine it was complete radio silence until someone said, all right, we're starting the drive. Everyone go radio silent type of deal.
Yeah, so that's a good point. We don't technically know that he made it to the spot where he was sitting. There's no reason to think he didn't, because like you said, it's a flat road. He's only walking maybe another 100 yards down the road, a football field. That's not that far. And then he's only going in 30 or 40 yards at most.
I would say high probability is he got to the spot he wanted to be at.
Yeah, there's a good chance that the third guy, the third watcher, saw him sit down.
Yeah.
They don't make a note of that, but it's possible. So yeah, that's bizarre. One of the things the law enforcement officials kept mentioning, that they are almost 100% ruling out any kind of animal attack. They would have found evidence of that, and the fact that they went up there and said it looked devoid of wildlife, makes me think that a very, very low probability that he was injured or attacked by an animal. And I mean, upstate New York, maybe you've got black bears.
And the point is, I mean, the way they were searching again with those bump lines and stuff, they would have found ripped clothing, torn something, blood, anything.
Yeah, they would have found the area where the animal attacked, especially overnight. There was no rain or anything, so it wouldn't have been washed away. And and from other cases, we've mentioned that animals they're not going to drag somebody a mile away. They're going to.
Well, yeah, just in our last case, they it dragged it 30 yards in one of the bodies of the men who died in California. It was very clearly an animal attack, and it moved the body, 20 or 30 yards, I think was the total amount. All right, so I think we're both in agreement, definitely not animal attack.
Not animal attack.
Based on the facts we know, what do you think, Mike? I'm just going to ask you square. Like,
so
what do you think happened?
I'm going to go through what I don't think it is. So
okay.
I don't think he wandered off to a road and got hit, because they searched all of the ditches and they didn't find him. We said it wasn't an animal attack. I don't think it was exposure related. It's November. It's getting cold out, but it's not it was still raining out, so it's not below freezing. It sounded like he had warm clothing on, and he's an ex-Army Ranger.
Yeah.
He's been out in the woods for decades. If he got lost, I have, even at 82 with one eye and bad hearing, I have high confidence that he would survive the night. That old Army Ranger training would kick in and he would figure it out.
And even if not, they would find his body
Yeah.
if he succumbed to exposure.
I just can't imagine him wandering off on his own. He, like we said, he's an Army Ranger. He's a veteran, so he's highly trained in navigation and surviving out in the wilderness. He's been hunting for decades in this part of New York. I don't think he just wandered off and got lost and died outside of the search area. I think my leading theory, and I say this because the FBI show up, I think, and then this other guy went missing, that potentially maybe there's some type of serial killer, some crazy guy that's living out in the woods and attacked him and took him. The FBI showed up because this isn't the first time it's happened, and then it happens 10 days later, 40 miles south. Maybe that's why they didn't find anything, because the guy, whoever attacked him, took his weapon. But then, even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking like, all right, how did he get this old man out of the woods then? Like they would have found tracks from a car or a four-wheeler.
So you know what? I'm gonna say I'm 100% agreeing with you. I think there is some foul play.
Yeah.
To where, because it is weird the FBI showed up. So we can go far paranormal route where he was abducted by aliens, and the guys that showed up are researching recent abductions in the area and they know something. But I think more realistic is they are tracking a trending issue.
Yes.
And that's why they were there. Quite honestly, it would be nice to know if they went to the one that was 40 miles south as well.
Yeah. And I think there's a spectrum here of what. So if you're one of those people that does not believe in any type of conspiracy theory, I think you're gonna think that there's, like a serial killer that's preying on people out in the woods.
Well, it's a matter of, he could have approached him. Maybe he was stalking this group, approached him and said, hey, like, I'm a park ranger. I need you to come with me, and these people need help, and maybe got him to freely pick up his stuff and walk out and get into a vehicle with him.
Yeah, so that's the one end of the spectrum. You got the far other end of the spectrum. You've got the weird sound that kind of sounded like a trap. You've got the FBI showing up. It could be all kinds of weird, bizarre, paranormal stuff going on too. It's fun thinking about that. I've always said, I'm a huge fan of the X-Files. But yeah, this is a real head scratcher. I think, it's 4 years since he went missing, and still no one has any clue on an official theory of what happened. What do you? So you think it might be some kind of foul play, maybe serial killer?
I think he was abducted. I think he was abducted by someone. I think that's the only logical thing. I think it'd be fun to play the route of paranormal, and that's why the FBI showed up and there's some weird trapdoor noise. But I think legitimately it was more than likely. What about this? You're 100 yards away. Let's say the guy pulls up in a truck, goes in, gets Tom, comes out, and that trap door noise was a door shutting of a car.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like slammed a car door on him or something like that, and
maybe the road is compact enough that it's hard to make.
I don't know.
Tracks out. Or maybe there's so many tracks from cars going up and down it.
That's what I say. If it's a dirt road, you can't differentiate a regular truck or something like that. So, or did he, hit him with his gun or something? And that's what he heard. Like, did he punch him or assault him at the road and then stuff him into a vehicle and drive away, heading south? And then all of a sudden, 10 days into it, there's another one missing. I don't want to tie the two together, but I just think it is. Sometimes you get coincidences that are too coincidental to be not related.
It sounds like this road goes, it only goes, one direction. There's not like an exit at the end of it. So if he obviously, no one drove down the way they walked, because the three other guys would have seen a car drive by, or a four-wheeler. So he would have to go the other way on the road and somehow get out of the area without being detected by the guys pushing deer or the guys sitting.
And that's a good point. That kind of can screw over my theory is it's a one. Well, I'm just trying to think it all out. So it's a one-way road. Does this person who's preying on these individuals, was he like camped out at the top of the road and saw them go in?
Yeah.
And was just kind of sitting there waiting? Because they didn't mention any other cars down by the lakeside. So was it like, oh, this one older gentleman is, up at the top, and he's the unlucky one who was the fourth one in the line? If it was one of the other guys that was fourth in line, they would have been the ones that were abducted. So is it random? But then there's also the fact of, if there wasn't anyone sitting there, how did they randomly just find this guy 40 yards off the road,
right,
in the woods?
Well, and you've got, he's I guess you could say he's disabled a bit. He's got poor vision, so someone could poor hearing. Someone could probably sneak up on him without him knowing it. We don't know, with hearing aids, and he should be able to hear someone walking up, but who knows? Maybe he.
Well, and that's where I feel like he probably would have had to leave under his own volition, because otherwise, I mean, it would have to be more than one person to carry him out.
My four-wheeler's broke down. I need help.
Yeah, some story to get him up and going to the road. I mean, he's an older guy. If someone asked him for help, he'd probably get up and help him.
Yeah, everyone mentioned that Tom was, would help anybody. He was very handy. He could fix anything. So I think it's entirely possible that if someone came up to him and be like, hey, my vehicle broke down, my four-wheeler's broke down, can you come help me with something? And he's like, oh, yeah. And then he walks over there, and then maybe the guy, hits him with his gun, and that's the sound Sid heard. And he throws him on the back of the four-wheeler and drives off into the woods.
That's my ending theory. That's what I'm sticking to. I think he was, outside of paranormal stuff, I think he was abducted by somebody that's specifically doing this, and that's partially why the FBI showed up, because this case met a profile that they were already tracking.
Yeah, and maybe, like we said, that guy went missing 10 days later, but maybe there's, I didn't research this, but maybe there's other cases in this area from years, prior years, and the FBI was instantly triggered, like, all right, we got to get up there. It's happened again. We need to figure out, where's this guy going? Why is he doing it? That's probably why the FBI were there.
Yep.
They're probably...
I'm on that board.
Writing their reports. They're probably, here's all the details, and they send it down to their analysts down in Virginia, and they're probably trying to come up with, all right, where is he based out of? And it's a bizarre case, though. I feel terrible for the family in this one. I mean, he sounds like a really nice guy.
It's like, it's the comforting, not comforting, but it's not as bad as like when a child goes missing, but still they don't have closure. There's no closure on that when you can't find it. So that's really unfortunate, but yeah, hopefully something turns up in the next few years. I mean, honestly, so that they can get closure or find out what's going on.
And it's got to be so puzzling for the other guys in the hunting party. I can't imagine. I mean, he's right there. What happened?
Yeah, he's got a walkie-talkie, and so hold on. That kind of puts a hamper in my theory too, because if he was going to go help somebody, he might call it in.
Yeah, why wouldn't he call his buddies and be like, hey, I'm not at my spot. This guy has a broken down car.
Unless like the sound he heard, the trap sound, was a guy snuck up behind him and cracked him over the head.
Yeah.
And then carried him off. I don't know. I'm baffled.
You would think dogs would track that, though.
Exactly.
If you're dragging a guy through the woods to your four-wheeler, I'm just imagining that would be a trackable scent.
Yeah. Unless it was like, hey, he walked in here, and if he dragged him out the same way, they're like, yeah, he came in on the road here, but then they don't track him from the car. I don't know. It
would be great to get somebody from that search and rescue team on the phone and talk to him about it.
And just make it seem more confusing.
Yeah, right. So, again, another case that we have no clue what happened in the end.